Come on, man. Got a script for me. Yeah. I'd like to call to order our October 3rd, 2022 Jones County Board of Education meeting. I'd like to thank all visitors, guests, and all those watching virtually in attendance. Ms. Candace, please let the record show we have a quorum of 5 board members present in the boardroom. Mr. Griffin, Mr. Walston, myself, Mr. Brown, and Ms. Fial. Also present in the boardroom, Superintendent Dr. Thigpen, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Marquis, and Board Attorney Mr. Shive. At this time, I'll ask all to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, I'll ask for the approval of our regular session Jones County Board of Education meeting on September the 12th.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Griffin, Mr. Brown, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. At this time, I'll ask for the approval of our October 3rd, 2022 board agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Griffin, Ms. Fee, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item 1F, special recognition.
Good evening. Tonight, we would like to honor a special employee of Jones County Public Schools. The employee is determined to make our school system the best each and every day. Of the 115 licensure specialists in the state of North Carolina, she was only one of 8 to have 0 teacher vacancies to start the beginning of this school year. At this time, I'd like each of you to rise and give Miss Gloria Moore a round of applause for her continued
Miss Gloria. We're waiting to hear you speak.
These are for you as well.
You talk so easy you wouldn't hear it.
Yeah.
So much. You're welcome.
And rice? Yes. Thank you so much.
Ready?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Congratulations.
It's my pleasure. It's my honor to serve all of you. It really is. Thank you.
Thank you, board. Also, going to public comment at this time. Item 2, we do not have public item or public comments this evening.
Appreciate it. Well, then we will move into item 3A, our budget report.
Good evening, everyone. In your packet, you should have the budget report for our spending for the month of September. If you have any questions, I will be glad to answer them. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa.
I was hoping to ask you a question tonight.
That's not stopping in the packet.
We'll move into item 3B, our facilities report.
We've started moving forward in projects. We actually got bids in today for high school gym. It's set moving forward with that one. We have got the bids in for storage building at high school as well. So it's 50, but 12 buildings we're gonna put out there, so that's on track. It started pretty quick. We're moving forward with the football field lighting project that we've been working on, so we've solicited, I'm supposed to meet some people this week. We're working with an engineer at this time to get the design in place to submit to the state, so we're moving forward on that as well. Anybody have any questions about anything else?
The PDH room, the,
PD Center?
yeah,
Plumbing's in place, the electrical is in place for Lakeland Jones or Duke Energy. Drop the power in, and I have submitted, I'm waiting for one more bid for the scrutiny to go around for the ADA assessment. And Bruce Corbin, I'm gonna put around, so we're moving forward with that as well. We kind of got tied up in the football field projects out here, so it slowed us down, we finally got completed that.
feel like you have an ETA on that one after Christmas, the PD center,
Yeah, should be Christmas.
after Christmas.
How many people work in your department, team?
I have, 2 full-time employees and myself and a part-time employee.
You still having a lot of maintenance to do at the high school, at the new school? Is that tying up a lot of time still?
Well, we stay busy there as well. Just over there, I was over there Friday doing some work. We stay busy over there fixing things. We actually picked up all the maintenance on that building after the warranty ran out on it. So the only thing that really our first floor takes care of in that building is the HVAC unit and the lighting system. Everything else falls to us on that. And we've had some TikTok issues over there this past year with vandalism. It keeps us busy. We're one of the departments that you like. I can certainly put it on my email list. We have an automated work request program that monitors when I receive the call, when we address it, what we address, what we've done to fix it. Everything we do is monitored by there on that system. I mean, if you'd like me to code you in on that, I'd be glad for you to look at it anytime you want to. We stay pretty busy with other schools.
Appreciate you.
Any other questions on facility?
I don't.
Appreciate it, Tim.
Thank you.
Item 3C, the superintendent update and comments.
Board members, I wanted to give you an update on the requirements that we're going to encounter as a result of being low performing as a district. And so basically, our staff has had to attend a webinar that outlines the timeline. We will have to send a letter to all the parents to inform them about the status of the district. Of course, we've got to have a plan to address the issue. We'll post that plan It has to be public. We have to allow public comment for 30 days. And then eventually you will approve the plan and we submit a final plan to DPEI and the state board via NC Star, and that has to be by December 9th. And so those are some requirements that we've got to meet. We've already taken the actions listed there. We've met with our principals, reviewed the data. We know the student names, who's testing for this year, and what we've got to focus on at each site. We're going to monitor that weekly as a central office. We've met with the cabinet to kind of talk about how we're going to go about working with the principals and to stay on top of this. We've met with Beth Metcalf from DPI, and she's outlined to give us insight on how to proceed forward with that. And our principals are going to be attending an instructional leadership academy. And, you know, we've got a plan that you should have a copy of in your packet that outlines the steps that we're taking, as well as it'll be displayed up here. There's a couple of things that are, the dates are established that we have to respond by. And because of the, I'm going to go to the next slide and it'll clarify. The results become official on October 6th. And by the statutes, we have to, by within 30 days, notify the parents about our improvement plan and all that. And so because of that, our board meeting falls after that, and it would be advantageous to us if we could move our November board meeting from November 7th to November 4th, which is on November 4th is on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then our December 5th board meeting is, the plan is due on December the 4th, which I believe is a Sunday. And so we would need to move that meeting to December 1, if that would be possible to do so, in order for us to meet the designations that are set out by the state. And so I would request that we be able to move those meeting dates, if that would be agreeable to the board to do so.
I'm good.
What are the dates again that you wanted to move?
November and
We
December
would
1st.
move November 7th board meeting to November 1, and the December 5 board meeting to December 1.
Both of them at 5. Same. Yes, sir. Are y'all okay with them? Small.
My town meeting is in the one.
We got a town meeting. What time?
We got a big agenda.
Should we move the change, was this having it
If you
in
don't
earlier
leave
in the
at
day,
6:30,
does that
I
help?
mean, I can. Should be fine.
Yeah, because November 1st is my birthday, and I'd like to take that day off.
I said me. I'll be here.
Okay.
So we're going.
Day after Halloween.
Are we good for November, December 1st?
I'm good whenever.
Would that be,
Yeah, we're
okay.
good with.
Okay, so I guess we, during the action items, will we need to make a motion to move those, Colin, during that time? Okay.
You say November, is that on a Tuesday? Is that election day?
Next day, the next week.
The 8th?
So we will move November 1 to November.
So you need to make a motion for both of them? Is that what you said, to change the regular meetings?
Yes, so that would be during the action.
I'll make a motion to change the regular meeting dates for November 1. For November to be November 1 and December to be December 1.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Griffin, change the dates. Second by Mr. Brown. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right.
Thank you, board, for that. And, you know, we're working on, you know, at Maysville, Trenton, those principals here, they're going to speak to those things in their school improvement plan. You know, the things we're measured on at the high school are work keys, graduation rate, math, biology. Dr. Parker is on top of that, as Mandy and Stella are on top of those things. But we're all, I mean, in this together, the central office and the principals, we're all aware and trying to assist everybody as best we can. So Our plan is to be out of this by the end of the year. But you have a paper copy of this outline plan that we're working on, and that will have to be submitted in NC Store. And we will have to post it and make it public after the state board meeting, October 6th. We will post it and make it public for public comment. But that's what's going on with this. Do you all have any questions for us related to any of this?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. I want to point out some positive things. Smithfield Foods has donated $2,000 to the Jones County Schools, and they also talked with Ms. Lee about some future support for our CTE program. Danielle has checked concerning our SRO grant. We expect to hear about that at the end of the month. We recognize Mr. Dockery at the last principals meeting. He's, made some improvements with the transportation department and improving things there, as well as Healthier Lives and Beyond. Sit down at a principals meeting with our principals. Those things are moving forward, and they want to have a bigger presence and listen to any concerns that we have. We've already recognized Ms. Corey and Bryce for 100% of our vacancies being filled. Our football team got its first win Friday night, and we congratulate them on that. Coach Dillard's volleyball has been competitive and improving. So with that, as far as future leadership, we have 2 principal fellow interns. One's working with Dr. Parker and one working with Ms. Downs, and they will be administrators down the road for us. And then one thing that gets overlooked, maybe that shouldn't be, is we've got 3 people in the school system completing doctorates: Stephen, Mandy, and Bryce. And we have 2 of them that'll be done at the end of this year, and 1 more that will be done at the end of next year. And that, for this smaller district, to have that many people moving forward, they're to be congratulated, and y'all are to be commended for that. That is outstanding for this district. So
Sure.
we certainly applaud them. And lastly, October is National Principals Month, and we certainly are thankful for our principals and the work they do. So, any questions for me or concerns?
When I made that motion, we're keeping the times the same at 5. Is that correct? Maybe.
He said,
I'm open to any, if we find that we need to move the time, I'm open to that. Should there be conflict? Y'all let me know what you need, and we'll do
I just said we were leaving it at 5.
it. Okay.
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Thick, again. We'll move into our action items. 4A, the Auditors Report.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Thigpen. Hope you all doing well. Each of you should have a copy of the, a bound copy of the June 30th, 2022 audited financial statements that we have issued. The financial statements cover 2 main areas that we're required to issue reports on. One is the financial section, which is the first 57 pages of this report, followed by the compliance section, which starts on page 58. There are a couple of pages of financial information in the audit that we plan to go over. Starting on page 13, and looking at Exhibit 3. And while you're turning there, Exhibits 3 and 4 are essentially the balance sheet and income statements for all of your governmental funds. These schedules show the fund activity and fund balances on a fund-by-fund basis. In the first column, on page 13, the next to last number at the bottom, you can see general fund had a fund balance at June 30th, 2022 of $859,295, which is a decrease of about $31,000 over the amount reported the prior year. I did want to point out that most districts that we've audited this year saw an increase in fund balance for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. And with all the uncertainty in the economy right now, along with minimum wage increases, rising healthcare costs, retirement costs, we do feel it's very important for the district to have extra funds in reserve for when the federal COVID funding expires in a few years. One thing that we do want to point out, I think I mentioned last year, was in most districts, fund balance increased back during the few years following the 2008 financial crisis. And that was when the federal government, as they're doing today, had issued millions of dollars in stabilization funds to LEAs across the country. And once the stabilization funds went away, fund balances began to drop. So that's just something that we want to caution you on, because one thing we did notice was for the fiscal year into 22-23, y'all have, the board has appropriated approximately $206,000 in the general fund balance, or the general fund balance in order to balance the budget. And that's approximately 25% of the non-restricted fund balance at June 30th, 2022. So again, we just, do want to, reiterate restate that how important it is to have extra funds in reserve for when those funds do expire. But overall, these funds do appear to be in decent financial condition with good fund balances and cash reserves at June 30th, 2022. And we'd also like to quickly point out that on pages 1 and 3 of the audit report is the audit opinion letter that we issued on the financial section of the audit. And we're happy to report this a clean, unmodified opinion, which is exactly what the board wants to receive. Are there any questions for me, Will? The next page we'll look at is page 57 and look at the school food service fund. This schedule shows the revenues, expenditures, and changes in net position or fund balance for the school food service fund. The program reported a profit of $64,024. In the previous year, the district reported a profit of about $56,000. So that's a year-over-year improvement of approximately $8,000. And that improvement was primarily due to an increase in food sales and revenue from USDA reimbursements as a result of increased meals served, as the district continued to return to more normal operations in the school food service program during 2022. And then also cash balances in the program were $342,000 at year end, which was an increase of about $70,000 over the prior year. Overall, the program appears to be in good financial condition at June 30th, 2022. Any questions on this page before we move on? All right, next thing in order is the compliance section, as I mentioned earlier, which that starts on page 58. And page 58 is the first of 3 letters that we have to issue relating to our compliance testing over the board's internal controls and expenditure of state and federal grant funds. We are required each year to perform compliance audits on the state and federal grants received by the district. We're required to test a significant amount of payroll and general disbursement transactions, as well as testing of other grant-specific requirements. We're happy to report that all 3 of these letters are clean, unmodified reports, which means that there were no internal control weaknesses, findings, or question calls in any of these letters. Basically, these letters let you know that we didn't note any improper use of grant funds and feel that the district's finances appeared to have been expended properly and in accordance with budgets approved by the Board of Education. Y'all should also have received a management letter. It was a separate 1-page letter that we issued, in which we just wanted to point out an opportunity, or there was a matter that we thought was an opportunity for the board to strengthen internal controls and operating efficiency. I didn't plan to go over that letter in detail unless there's any specific questions on that letter. And then we also issued a separate 3-page letter that details specific audit items that we're required to communicate to the board about. The letter basically had boilerplate language. It discusses there were no difficulties or disagreements encountered in dealing with management during the audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements were noted, and no other reportable issues were noted during the audit. Overall, we felt the audit went very smoothly. The board, appears to be in good financial condition as of year end. Financially, the district appears to be very well managed, and the finances are very transparent. Ms. Moore and her staff do an outstanding job of maintaining accurate books and records and working to maximize state and federal funding available to the district. And we really do appreciate all their hard work and help in get the audit completed this year. Does anybody have any questions for me before we wrap up? All right, well, we really do appreciate you all allowing our firm to complete the audit this year, and we look forward to working with you guys next year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You want me to start then?
We do have to accept the audit officially.
I'll make a motion to accept all the reports.
Motion to accept.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion approved. We'll move into item 4B, the approval of the school improvement plan. Starting with Comfort.
Good evening, everyone. So our first goal is that 70% of the students at Trenton Elementary School will be grade level proficient in both ELA and math by June 2023. Our second goal is that 40% of our students with disabilities will be grade level proficient in both ELA and math by June 2023. And then our third goal is that our students, our school book credit culture in which academic, social, and emotional needs are met in 70% of our students. And that will be measured by our DESA and social and emotional screeners by June 2023.
Thank you.
Do we have to accept these plans? Do we do them individually or take them together?
Do them all at once again. Maybe you still.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to open by saying it's a lot of heavy information that kind of corresponds regarding that low performing status, but I would also like to go on record officially just by saying I work with some of the hardest working, compassionate, and passionate individuals that I've probably worked with in my career. So I'm very proud to stand up here and represent Maysville Elementary School. And you can see from the goals there, we changed them just a little bit this year to reflect the number of students versus a percentage, just because it is very easy to quickly look at a number of students and to see very quickly whether we have reached that goal or not. That is one of the things that we started looking at once we did receive the information regarding the low performing status. We sat down and looked at what do we need to get us out of this place? And what do we need to do to exceed that to not be back in this place? So that you will notice that there's been a slight change in the verbiage within our goals to reflect that focus for our school. So obviously noting that the urgency is grades 3-5, simply because that is what the state is monitoring. But we all recognize that if we don't do it in our foundational grades, then it's not going to matter what we're doing in those 3-5 grades. So we did not want to leave them out when we were looking at our goals. So our first goal there focuses strictly on reading, first part of it there. And so we're looking at out of our K, 1, 2, and 3rd grade students, we want 50 of those 74 students to be proficient when we measure their in-class data. Then we're looking at 35 out of 53 students in grades 3-5 to be proficient on their end of grade testing in June, end of May, the end of the school year when we look at that. We're also looking at making sure that we're utilizing our time in the building to reflect collaborative planning and focusing on how we reach that first goal. So it's imperative there that we are looking at our MTSS and remediation plan to focus on our student literacy and math scores. Let's see, and the final goal there is looking at, I think in the past we've looked at our students with disabilities. What we have looked at is our tier 2 and our tier 3 students, which encompasses our exceptional children in there, as well as our students that we typically refer to as our bubble students, who are right there on the cusp of attaining their goals. So that third goal there focuses on our tier 2 and tier 3 students in their growth with our EC teacher and remediation specialist and some of the other things that we have put in place on campus to ensure success. Any questions for me?
No.
Oh, come on. I was ready. No, sir.
Okay.
No, just teasing. Thank you.
Thank you. Pollocksville.
Good evening, everyone. Our first school improvement goal is to focus for our 3 through 5 to increase our performance composite from a 68 to a 70. Our second goal focuses on our K-3 literacy to increase our overall performance composite from a 59 to a 63. Our third is to continue to focus on our Black subgroup to decrease it by 10% as measured annually. And then our fourth school improvement goal is to increase parental involvement and attendance at least 50% at 3 of the 4 planned nights throughout the school year.
How you gonna do that?
We're just going to make sure that it's communicated well.
Okay. Free food.
And feed them when we have the opportunity.
There you go.
Stephen, if you had to guess right now, what would be your attendance at events and things? Just
I will say we had our first PTO meeting in the middle of September. I was expecting the treasurer to be there and most of the staff, but we actually had about 12 parents that showed up. So I think with COVID ending, you're going to see a wave of people willing to come back into the school where they have been reluctant in the past.
gotcha.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. Trenton Elementary.
Good evening.
Ms. Keller.
These goals may seem very simplistic or sound very simplistic, but trust me, they are very complex. At Trenton Elementary School, this school year, we want to double our proficiency in reading and math as measured on the end of grade test assessments to change our composite score from 29% to a composite score of 58%. That would get us to a C status. We also want to focus on our lower grades by bringing up our M-class benchmark proficiency from, is currently it was 59% this past year. We'd like to bring that up to 75%. And in order to do these 2 goals, we also want to reach the status of exceeded growth. And if we're going to get to those goals, we're definitely going to have to exceed growth.
Thank you. And Jones Senior.
Good evening, everyone. In June, our school improvement team met after we received our district plan, our district goals for the year. And so our school improvement team decided to mirror the district goals. So they look very similar to what's on the strategic plan. Jones Senior will have 8% more students with no discipline referrals by June 2024. We created a 2-year plan, but once we went to low performance status, of course, we might have to change our dates, but still the goal doesn't change. We'll have 53% of our students on or above grade level proficiency. We will have 90% of the students to meet or exceed growth by 2024. The average daily attendance will be 90% for the students and staff, and we will retain 80% more or more of our staff. A lot of our goals come with new data platforms and new initiatives that we put in our building. So it's really 22-23 will be a baseline year for almost every one of those goals because we have implemented quite a few changes.
Thank you, Parker. Thank you, sir.
I make a motion to accept the plans as presented.
Sheriff made a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Wilson second it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Here quick.
Budget amendment number 4.
Good evening, guys. Budget amendment number 4 is actually a follow-up to help close out the books for last year and present the audit. If you have any questions, I will be more than glad to answer them. It was a school bus. We booked the lease and we forgot to book, well, I'm not gonna say forgot. We didn't book the purchase properly for this past year. So this is our chance to correct that. But we've already made both entries for 2023, so we should not have this problem next year.
So you need a budget amendment? I'll make a motion to do the budget amendment, so we won't have this problem next year.
Second.
Scrivener made a motion, Mr. Brown second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Audit question.
Excuse?
I have an audit question on one of the letters.
Huh?
And I'm notorious for this as well. For your purchase orders, they say they found a weakness in that. What do you do to address that?
We threaten people a lot, but it doesn't work. The audit letter is, so we actually have documentation from the auditors, and our goal moving forward is, what we do now is when they come in, bring a check request in or show up with an invoice and say, I need to be paid, they normally call council, we'll send them an email and say, hey, law requires you get it approved first. To do that, this is the steps you need to take, and moving forward, we're also gonna attach the audit letter. But he did say, you know, we're overachievers. He did say you're never going to eliminate all of
That's
it.
what I asked that.
I will try to reduce.
I'm pretty sure it's the principal that's on that.
I'm not going to say it's principal. It's not the principal. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Melissa. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive closed session for personnel reasons pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-31811A 1, 3, and 6.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Griffin, second by Mr. Walston. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. We were in closed session at this time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Have a good evening. Don't
All right.
Where are they in my, they're in your box.